my name's Ron Neal. I've just turned 68 and I've been a model maker for over 64 years.
My name is Callum Wilcox and I am a model railway YouTuber.
I'm Kathy Miller and I'm a full-time content creator working on modelling. So I do scale models of all sorts.
I started off with my model railways thanks to my grandfather, which was about over 22 years ago now. He got me started when I was about 2 or 3. He took me up to a loft one day above the house, and there was a model railway in there, and I was sort of hooked. So a couple of years later, the layout came out of the loft, and I've been modelling ever since.
So I started modelling as a child, and you know what life is like. Suddenly you need the space where your model railway is for homework and things like that. So I stopped modelling probably in about my mid-teens, and I came back to it in my late 20s when I was just looking for a hobby. I went on holiday and I went to Mevagissey World of Model Railways, and I remembered how much I enjoyed it as a child. And I took that emotion sort of forward 20 years later and decided, yes, I was going to try this hobby. So I've been back in the hobby for 20 years now, I would say.
Yeah, I started when I was very small. I was born with club feet. I had a lot of operations on my feet, so I spent a lot of time in hospital and time at home. And then Mum went out and bought me a kit so I could sort of occupy my time. I think it was a Westland Whirlwind as a prop engine plane that looked like a Meteor. Quite a rare kit now apparently. So it was, by the time Mum had gone to the shops and back, I'd already built the thing and it was virtually flying round the room. I was an only child, so I didn't have brothers or sisters, and I say when I was very young I had quite a bad speech impediment, so I kind of went into my own shell really, but I just sort of lost myself in my model making. I was always good with my hands from an early age, you know.
Model railways have really been quite positive for me. I think it's a way to unwind from the real world. As many people know, especially in times like this, the real world can be quite stressful. So to pick up modelling tools and model locomotives and start building a project, basically creating your own miniature world which you could be ruler of, it really is quite refreshing. There's no sort of rules you can follow, or in many ways you can create your own rules which you won't wish to follow, but you can also break those rules in many senses as well.
My favourite bit of modelling is probably the design through to planning it all out, researching it, working out how I'm going to modelling it, trying new techniques, whatever it is. I like a bit of a challenge. So my aim is to create something that's as realistic as possible, and it's what is the best way to get there.
Looked up a few months ago in a model shop locally. It's sort of history of model making, rosebud kits, and then they became Airfix, and now they're Dapole. And that's what kids did. They started off with plastic kits, and then, like myself, I started working in 1969, which is 51 years ago, and I'm still working now for my sins. And as time goes on, you end up going into the high-end kits. Like anything in life, as you get on, hopefully you get better and better, so you end up getting to etch brass kits and stuff like that. And after, hopefully as you get older you get better, and you end up building stuff like that.
I think the hobby is quite a broad church and something that is forever constantly changing. I noticed that there are a lot more women that are picking up the hobby, or that have been in the hobby for quite a while, but they're making themselves more known amongst the enthusiasts sort of thing. As media sort of depicts, it is quite a male-dominated hobby, but there are many women out there that enjoy this hobby as well, as as with all hobbies.
A lot of people say that the hobby is male-dominated, and they'd be right. There's certainly a lot more men in it than women. I've never had any problems with that. I found people to be incredibly welcoming. I've joined clubs and they've always taken me on the strength of my modelling, not on whether I'm a boy or a girl or anything like that. So it may have a lot more men in the hobby, but I've never found that to be an issue. I found it very welcoming, regardless of who you are going to it.
I think being part of a model railway community has really helped me out in the wider world as well. You know, in many ways, getting involved in the hobby wouldn't have got me to where I am today. And it's one of those sort of impossible dreams that you think now that would never happen to you. But what happened, thanks to you starting the YouTube channel and getting involved in the community, sort of snowballed into a lifelong passion and job, which is something I could have imagined.
I think social media has really changed the way I model and how I'm involved with the hobby. When I started out 20 years ago, social media didn't really exist, I'm that old, and I went to a local club, and that was brilliant. If I made a mistake, I could take something along and people could physically see it and comment on it. People came round to my layout, whichever version I had then. They would help me with the building of it. I found it a really beneficial interaction to have a local club that I could go to whose people would help, and that really saw me in good stead for the rest of my modelling.
I think the future for the hobby is very bright, especially in light of the recent news that we have seen. During lockdown, people have obviously been locked inside and have been taking up hobbies, and for many years big manufacturers such as Hornby have been making losses year on year, and it's been blamed on many ways that it's a hobby for old men and no one's getting involved.
Yeah, well, I suppose we bring up right up date 2020, and so I've just turned 68, so I'm a bit of an old dinosaur, but with the current lockdown situation, I've been moaning for many years that kids aren't doing stuff or they're not making kits, but I think with the lockdown people have been stuck at home and people have looked at model making in a different light. So as you rightly said, Hornby are doing quite well. I think Airfix on the up and up, and I think people have lost the art of socialising over the last few years. We've all become very insular, if you like, and I think lockdown has made us realise there's more to life than just